Hi, in this video I'd like to take you on a little tour in the northeast part of the Robledo Mountains in southern New Mexico. This tour follows the trail to the Prehistoric Trackways monument where the dinosaur footprints are embedded in the rock. So it should be fairly easy to find. I've been studying glyphs in this part of the Robledo Mountains for a while now and have started to concentrate in this area. And I'd like to show you on the ground and through satellite photos what you're seeing as you go along this trail. First, you'll need to find the Prehistoric Trackways National Monument. When you get there, pull off into the first parking lot on the right, and you'll take the trail that I think is called the North Ridge Trail. As you walk up the trail towards Point A, you'll notice the next layer of hills off to the right, and you'll see that it's a patchwork of different colors with fairly defined and distinct edges. It's this pastel colors as well as some dark rock. If you think about a planet that's been oxidizing and patinating for millions of years, the surface would be very dark and all the material would be cemented in and vegetated over. But these hills are all cleared and the soils are very light colored, like shouldn't occur in nature. Now I'm going to show you why it looks like this. If you look in satellite photos, you can see that these ridge lines have been turned into this landscape art by prehistoric peoples. Every one of these different shades and colors is a disturbance on the landscape. They were taking different colored rock and moving it around. They were preparing land to grow different native plants, cactus, that they were also incorporating into this artwork. So you can see that this isn't a natural landscape. In fact, the whole thing is man-made. I've been calling this area, kind of this panel of art, the March of the Elephants, and I'm going to do a separate video just on this alone. So just right here at the very beginning of the trip, off to the right, there's this incredible feat of artistry and engineering that goes unnoticed because we don't expect it to be there. And then even though I can show you it's here, people still won't believe it's here. As you get to point B on the map, there's this big disturbance. The old trail used to go up over the hill. The new one goes to the left right through this area and then goes back up the hill. This I believe to be the site of multiple tombs probably. The whole area has these alignments of rock. It's all been kind of carefully brushed and scraped to look like this. These aren't bulldozer marks. This isn't mining. This is all purposely done and very subtly done to create these brush strokes that you can see from above. This at the top of this disturbance, there's a nice little flattened platformed area that I believe is so that they could set up a device with a wheel, lower and raise people down a shaft so they could dig a tomb that would go fairly deep into the earth. If you watch my video on Aztec death, I discussed this device. This big disturbed area has been engineered to form several benches. I believe that's so that they could set up devices to dig tomb shafts. As you move up the ridge to Point C, note that all the rock is loose and broken up and disturbed. This is not a natural landscape. This rock was placed here by man. Otherwise, it would be embedded in soil and grown over with vegetation. All these colors also form elements of these geoglyphs or landscape paintings that I've discovered. On top of the ridge, there's a circular pile of large limestone boulders. Normally I would assume that this is some sort of natural outcropping of limestone, but after seeing all the engineering of the landscape out here, I again believe that this could be the location of a tomb. If not, it may be an element in a glyph. Someone placed these rocks here in all likelihood. And off on the south slope of the ridge are a number of other disturbances along an old road that I believe are also tombs. You should watch my video on the Artist King's tomb for more on these disturbances. And on the side of the volcanic hill to the north, there's a fairly large disturbance. I believe to be an important tomb, probably a king's tomb. It's fairly well engineered, steps down with a switchback road. Looks like a hole that's been filled back in, not any sort of lava rock mine or quarrying in historic times. It cost you a lot of money to engineer all this for the material that's here. Also, the whole side of this hill has been engineered to form elements of glyphs or landscape art. Every rock has been purposefully placed. Even the side of the hill has been carved to look like a face. Moving along to point D, you might notice along the side of the trail these alignments of rock. I believe these are all prehistoric markers. When you get to the top of the ridge, you look off east, it's all this really intensely bright red color. Think of it as pigment on the landscape, because that's what it is. If you go out there, you'll find this knoll with all this loose rock around on it that looks like it may have been dug up from below and scattered about. I believe, again, this could be the location of another tomb. If you look out to the east from this knoll down the ridge lines, you can see all the various colors and disturbances, even alignments of rock along the edges of each one of these elements. It's all been purposely engineered to form these figures. You start to get an idea of how complicated this was, but you get an idea how they accomplished it too. Back along the trail, along this dark colored hill, there's another one of these large disturbances. It has a level bottom to it. This disturbance looks like it's filled in and grown over more than some of the others I see out here, so I propose that this might be an earlier tomb than some of the others. As you go from point D to E across this dark hill, you can look off to the right and see all these freshly disturbed hills. There's very little vegetation. This land was probably early in its development. I believe these people would have turned all this land into farmland for soto, ocotillo, prickly pear, mesquite, other plants, natural plants that grew here. Because that's what I see out here in patches, and I believe that those represent a prehistoric pattern of farming. So as they made these geoglyphs, or these paintings on the landscape, they were also making the land more productive. Because you couldn't put this kind of effort into this kind of project if you weren't increasing productivity. The kingdom wouldn't allow that. So I'm going to end part one here at the north end of this dark hill. I hope people will start to realize when they're out in the desert here that this isn't a natural landscape. In fact, almost every square inch of it has been modified by the prehistoric people that were here before. If you've been out in this desert much, you'll have noticed that so much of it just looks totally dead. A lot of this has been blamed on historic ranching, but in fact it's the prehistoric land use. They had every intention of finishing these projects and making this land productive, but it got interrupted for whatever reason and was never completed.